Hello students, in this video we're going to learn class 8 social science, social and political life, that is civics, chapter number 8, confronting marginalization. Students, let us see why marginalized groups invoke the constitutions of India in the course of their struggles, and how are rights translated into laws to protect groups from continued exploitation, and also look at the government's effort to formulate policies that promote the access of these groups to development. Here is your first topic: invoking fundamental rights. Our constitution lays down the principles that make our society and polity democratic, defined in and through the list of fundamental rights that are an important part of the constitutions. The rights are available to all Indians equally. Marginalized have drawn on these rights in two ways. First one is insisting on their fundamental rights. They have forced the government to recognize the injustice done to them. And secondly, they have insisted that the government enforce these laws. The struggles of the marginalized influenced the government to frame new laws in keeping with the spirit of the fundamental rights. And the Article 17 of the Constitution's untouchabilities has been abolished. That means, according to our constitutions, the Article 17 of our constitutions, the untouchability has been abolished. That means no one can prevent Dalits from educating themselves, entering temples, using public facilities, and so on. It is strong to practice untouchability. This practice will not be tolerated by a democratic government, and the untouchability is a punishable crime now. And there are other sections in the constitutions that help to strengthen the argument against untouchability. For example, Article 15 of the constitutions note that no citizen of India shall be discriminated against on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. It is used by Dalits to seek equality where it has been denied to them. And here are some points. Let us learn together. Dalits can invoke or draw on a fundamental rights or right in situations where they feel that they have been treated badly by some individuals or communities or even by the government, and draw the attentions of the government of India to the constitutions demanded that the government abide by it and do justice to them. And other minority groups have drawn on the fundamental rights sections of our constitutions. They invoke the right to freedom of religions and cultural and educational rights. And in the case of cultural and educational rights, distinct cultural and religious groups like the Muslim and Parsis have the right to be the guardians of the content of their cultures, as well as the right to make decisions on how best this content is to be preserved. Thus, by granting different forms of cultural rights, the Constitution tries to ensure cultural justice to such groups. The Constitution does this so that the culture of this group is not dominated nor wiped out by the culture of the majority community. And here are the laws of the marginalized. Laws for the marginalized. There are specific laws and policies for the marginalized in our country. Promoting social justice. Attempting to implement the constitutions, state and central governments provide for free or subsidized hotels for students of Dalit and Adivashi communities so that they can avail of education facilities that may not be available in their localities. The government also operates through laws to ensure that concrete steps are taken to end inequity in the system. One such law or policy is the Reservation Policy. It is significant and highly contentious. The law which reserves seats in education and government employment for Dalits and Adivasis are based on an important argument that in a society like ours, where for centuries sections of the Sections of the populations have been denied opportunities to learn and to work in order to develop new skills or vocations. A democratic government needs to step in and assist these sections. And how does the reservation policy work? Government across India and the central governments have their own lists of scheduled castes or Dalits, scheduled tribes, and backward and most backward castes. Students applying to educational institutions and those applying for posts in government are expected to provide proof in the form of caste and tribe certificates. If a particular Dalit caste or a certain tribe is on the government list, then a candidate can avail of the benefit of reservation. For admission to college, especially to institutes of professional educations, government defines a set of cut-off marks. Only the Dalit and tribal candidates who secure marks above the cutoff point can qualify for admission. These students also get special scholarships from the government. Here comes the protecting the rights of Dalits and Adivashis. In addition to policies, our country also has specified laws that guard against the discrimination and exploitation of marginalized communities. The Scheduled Caste and the Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989 passed in response to demands made by Dalit and other tribal groups that the government must take seriously the ill treatment and humiliation that they face. The treatment acquired a violent character in the late 1970s and 1980s. During this period, in parts of southern India, a number of assertive Dalit groups came into being and asserted their rights. They refused to perform their so-called caste duties and insisted on being treated equally. This resulted in a more powerful caste unleashing violence against them, and Dalit groups demanded new laws that would list the various sorts of violence against Dalits and prescribe stringent punishment for those who indulge in them. Meanwhile, the Act distinguishes several levels of crime. First one is mode of humiliation, both physically horrific and morally reprehensible, and seeks to punish those who force a member of scheduled caste or a tribe to drink or eat any inedible or obnoxious substance. And next, forcibly remove clothes from the persons of a members of a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribes, or parades him or her naked or with painted face or body, or commits any similar act that is derogatory to human dignity. And secondly, actions that disposes Dalits and Adivashis of their meager resources or which force them into performing slave labor. Thus, the Act set out to punish anyone who wrongfully occupies or cultivates any land owned by or allotted to a member of a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribes, or gets a land allotted to him transferred. At another level, the Act recognizes that crime against Dalits and tribal women are of a specific kind and therefore seeks to penalize anyone who assaults or uses forces on any woman belonging to a scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe with intent to dishonor her. Here comes the next topic, Adivashi Demands and the 1989 Act. The 1999 Act is important for another reasons. It helped Adivasis to defend their right to occupy land that was traditionally theirs. Adivasis are often unwilling to move and were forcibly displaced from their land. Those who have forcibly encroached upon tribal lands should be punished under this law as proposed by activists. They have also pointed to the fact that this act merely confirms what has already been promised to tribal people in the constitution, that land belonging to tribal people cannot be sold to or bought by non-tribal people. And here comes your last paragraph. In cases where this has happened, the Constitution guarantees the right of tribal people to repossess their land. Meanwhile, in cases where tribals have already been evicted and cannot go back to their lands, they must be compensated. That is, the government must draw up plans and policies for them to live and work elsewhere. So students, with this, we have completed your chapter number 8. I hope you all understood what we have learned or what we have explained so far. Your remaining chapters will explain in upcoming videos.